My name's Monica. I'm 37 years old. I work full-time as a trauma nurse, and last weekend was supposed to be the first weekend off I'd had in almost 3 months. No overnight shifts, no double bookings, no pager buzzing at 3 a.m. Just me, peace and quiet, and my little mountain cabin tucked away in the woods. It's nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms, a wood stove, and a deck that overlooks a lake. But it's mine. I saved for 6 years to buy it. It's my happy place. So that Friday afternoon, I packed a small bag, grabbed a few groceries, and made the hour-long drive out of the city. I was exhausted, but excited. I couldn't wait to finally breathe. But the moment I pulled up the gravel driveway, I knew something was wrong. There were 3 cars parked outside. One of them was my brother Noah's. But the others, I didn't recognize them. And I could hear the music blasting all the way from inside my car. Not soft background music. I'm talking full-on party mode. I got out slowly, half thinking maybe Noah had just dropped by for a night. But as I got closer, I could see people through the windows. There were balloons, streamers, drinks, laughter. My heart sank. I unlocked the door and walked in. And there she was, Vivian, my sister-in-law, dressed like she was going to a club, holding a wine glass, surrounded by people I'd never seen before. She turned, looked at me dead in the eye, and without missing a beat, shouted, "Why is this Mooching Parasite here? This is my family's party. Get out." Everyone stopped talking. The music was still playing, but the energy shifted. All eyes turned to me. I felt my stomach flip. My ears were ringing, but I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just smiled, and I said, "Sure, I'll leave." And I did. But what I did after that changed everything. As I drove back down that mountain road, all I could think about was how we got here. How did we go from me raising my brother to being thrown out of my own house like I was some uninvited stranger? See, Noah's not just my brother, he's the closest thing I've ever had to a child. Our parents died when I was 22. He was only 11, and from that moment on, I stopped being just a big sister. I became everything: his guardian, his driver, his lunch packer, his tutor, his therapist. I didn't party in my 20s. I didn't travel the world. I worked. I took extra shifts. I studied nursing at night and took care of Noah during the day. When he got into college, he cried. Not because he didn't want to go, but because he didn't think we could afford it. I told him not to worry. I paid his tuition in full. I helped him find his first apartment after graduation and put down the deposit. And when he met Vivian, I tried so hard to be supportive, even when my gut told me something was off. Vivian was beautiful, I won't lie. The kind of woman who always looked camera ready, even at breakfast. But she had this air about her, like everything was beneath her, including me. I remember the first time she met my coworkers at a dinner party. She smiled, tilted her head, and said, "Oh, you're just a nurse, right? That's cute. Just a nurse." Later, I heard through one of her friends that she called me a spinster with a martyr complex, said I was bitter because no one wanted me. I let it go. I told myself if Noah was happy, I could deal with a few side comments. So when they got engaged, I paid for their honeymoon 20 grand. Fiji, oceanfront villa, private chef, and for their wedding gift, I gave them a used SUV. Nothing flashy, but dependable. I bought it outright and kept making the insurance and registration payments every month. I didn't say a word. I just wanted them to start their life with as little stress as possible. But Vivian didn't say thank you. Not really. She posted a photo on Instagram holding the car keys and captioned it, "Finally upgraded to something decent." Not a word about where it came from. Still, I smiled and kept paying. Then about a year ago, Noah lost his job. Company downsizing. It hit him hard. I told him, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out." He said it'd be temporary. Just a few months, so I started covering their rent, $1,700 a month. Quietly. No big deal. Month 1 became month 3, then 6, then 8. Vivian, by the way, doesn't work. Says working kills her spirit. Instead, she shops, she goes to yoga retreats, she orders takeout 5 nights a week. I know this because I see the credit card statements. Yes, I gave her a credit card. It was meant for emergencies only. And in the beginning, it was small things, groceries, medicine, a vet bill. But pretty soon, it was Lululemon spa facials and $200 hair appointments. Every time I saw the balance climb, I told myself, it's okay. It's family. It'll level out soon. But now, standing in my own kitchen, hours after being screamed at in my cabin, it all just hit me like a freight train. All the giving, all the patience, all the sacrifices I made for people who couldn't even give me basic decency in return. And the worst part, I never asked for a single thing back. Not once. I just gave and gave and gave. And Vivian still had the nerve to call me a parasite. That was the moment I realized something. They weren't using me. I was letting them. But not anymore. I didn't even cry on the way back. I didn't scream or curse or call anyone. I just sat in my car at the base of the mountain, hands on the wheel, watching the trees blur past as the sun disappeared behind them. The silence was deafening. And then the flashbacks started rolling in like waves, not memories, insults. Tiny daggers I'd collected over the years and stuffed into the back of my mind like they didn't hurt. Vivian laughing at me when I showed up to her birthday in scrubs saying, "You couldn't at least dress like a grown woman for once." Her telling one of her friends, loud enough for me to hear Monica's just bitter. I mean, who chooses to be alone in their late 30s? Or when she joked at a family dinner, Monica's married to her stethoscope. Too bad it doesn't pay as well as a husband would. And every single time, I said nothing. Not because I was weak, but because I loved my brother enough to swallow my pride. But sitting in that car after she kicked me out of my own house, in front of a dozen strangers, something broke. I wasn't just tired. I was done. When I finally pulled into my driveway, it was already dark. I unloaded the groceries I'd never used that weekend, took a long shower, and poured myself a glass of red wine. I sat at my kitchen table in silence and started doing the math. 8 months of rent at $1,700 a month, 2 years of SUV payments, that credit card, God, that credit card. All together, over $65,000. $65,000. Do you know what I could have done with that money? Paid off my student loans, upgraded my cabin, taken a real vacation for once in my life. But no, I spent it on 2 people who couldn't even treat me like a human being. I picked up my phone, opened my banking app, and started making decisions. First, I canceled the auto payment on their rent. I even called the landlord directly to make sure the recurring transfer was gone for good. Next, the SUV. I had been paying insurance registration and the monthly loan. All gone. I called the bank and removed myself from the account entirely. If they missed a payment, not my problem anymore. Then came the credit card. I froze it. Completely. No more spa days, no more boutique shopping, no more overpriced takeout on my dime. And finally, I removed Vivian's name from every single emergency contact access list and joint account I'd ever added her to. Click, 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 just like that. I erased her from my finances. And when I put my phone down, I exhaled. For the first time in years, I felt light. Not happy, not yet, but free. And that was a start. The next morning, my phone started ringing at 7:13 a.m. I didn't even need to check who it was. I knew. It was Noah. I let it ring twice before answering. He didn't say hi, didn't ask how I was doing. He just jumped straight in, his voice tense and shaky. Why didn't the rent go through? I took a sip of coffee, leaned back in my chair, and said calmly, "You'll have to ask your wife." There was silence. Then the line went dead. Not even 5 minutes later, I got a text from Vivian. It said word for word, "You bitter old hag. How dare you do this to us? You're disgusting." Then another. You're a sad little woman, Monica. No wonder no one wants you. Keep your stupid money. And then one more. Enjoy your pathetic cabin in the woods. You'll die alone there. I stared at the screen for a second, heart pounding not from hurt, but from how utterly unhinged she sounded. Then I blocked her. Done. A few hours later, I got another call, this time from an unfamiliar number. It was their landlord. Apparently, I was listed as the emergency contact and backup payer. She said, "Hi, Ms. Harris, we noticed the rent payment didn't come through this month. Just wanted to confirm if you're still covering the lease." I took a breath and said, "No, I'm no longer financially involved. You'll need to speak directly with the tenants from now on." There was a pause on the line, like she wasn't sure what to say next. Then she replied, "Understood. Thank you for the clarification." Click. I put my phone down, and for the rest of the day, I didn't hear a thing. It was quiet. Too quiet, but I knew that silence was temporary. Sure enough, a week later, I got the update through the grapevine from a friend of a friend who worked in property management. Noah and Vivian had been served a 30-day eviction notice. Apparently, they missed rent again. No backup plan, no funds. They tried negotiating, asking for more time. But the landlord didn't budge. Because guess what? When your only safety net walks away, reality hits fast. And as awful as it might sound, I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Because this wasn't karma. This was cause and effect. And honestly, it was just getting started. About 3 days after the eviction notice went out, I got a call from my Aunt Carla. Now, Carla is the only elder we really have left. She's my mom's sister, lives 2 towns over, and has always seen herself as the voice of reason in the family. Monica. She said, "I know things are messy right now, but you need to be the bigger person." I didn't even respond right away. She went on. "He's your brother. Vivian's not perfect. But this has gone too far. You're putting your own family out on the street." I stared at the ceiling for a second and then said, "Aunt Carla, do you know what Vivian said to me? Do you know how she's treated me?" Her answer was so quick it felt rehearsed. "She's just young, emotional. But family doesn't abandon family." That line, that one right there, I'd heard it all my life. Anytime someone in the family crossed a line, someone else would step in and say, "Just let it go. They're blood." But no one ever asked the people who got hurt how they felt. A few days later, I got invited to a family dinner at Carla's house. I almost didn't go, but something in me said, "Show up. Let them see." So I did. And Noah was there. He looked rough. Eyes tired, beard scruffy, clothes wrinkled like he hadn't done laundry in a while. He barely made eye contact when I walked in. Vivian wasn't there, of course. Carla served dinner like everything was fine. She made her famous pot roast, poured wine, kept the tone light. For the first half hour, we talked about the weather, politics, nothing personal. But I could feel it coming. Eventually, right as dessert was being passed around, Carla put down her fork and said, "Look, Monica, I'm going to say what everyone's thinking." I didn't respond. I just looked at her. She took a breath. "You've made your point, but it's time to move on. Family doesn't turn its back on family. You've always been the strong one, the responsible one. It's time to forgive and help your brother again." I felt the air shift. Noah kept his head down. Carla gave me this soft, pleading look like I was the one being unreasonable. So I pulled out my phone. No dramatic speech, no yelling. I opened my messages and scrolled. Then I turned my phone around and placed it in the center of the table. "Here," I said. "You want to know why I'm done? Read these." Carla leaned in. So did Noah. The first message was from Vivian, dated just 3 weeks ago. "Monica's just mad no one ever loved her enough to marry her." Another, "She's a dried-up old maid playing nurse like it makes her important." And another, "I don't owe her anything." She chose to be alone. Carla went quiet. Her fork was still in her hand, but she'd stopped eating. Noah didn't say a word. He just stared at the screen like he couldn't believe what he was reading, like this was the first time he'd actually seen the real Vivian in writing. Carla finally sat back in her chair. She looked like she was going to say something, but didn't. There was nothing to say. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and said, "Don't ask me to help the people who treat me like I'm nothing." Then I walked out. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. After the eviction, Noah and Vivian ended up moving in with her mom, which in theory should have been perfect for Vivian. She always bragged about how close she was with her mother, how they were like best friends and totally in sync. Yeah, that lasted about 3 weeks. Turns out Vivian's mom wasn't quite as blind as everyone else had been. Once she saw her daughter up close every single day, it got real fast. Vivian didn't cook. She didn't clean. She slept till noon, left her laundry on the floor, and treated her mom's house like a hotel with free room service. She'd bark orders like, "Can you not put garlic in the pasta? It's bloating me and Mom, we're out of oat milk again. Can you run to the store?" Meanwhile, Noah was stuck on the couch applying to jobs on a laptop that wasn't even his. He looked miserable, probably because he was. And then the complaints started trickling in. Not to me directly, of course. Oh no. They went through my mom's friends. Book club ladies, church volunteers, old PTA moms. I started hearing things like, "Did you hear what Marlene said about Vivian?" And word is she's driving her poor mother crazy. Apparently, Marlene, the mom, was venting to anyone who'd listen. Saying things like, "Vivian just doesn't help. I raised a princess and now I'm paying the price." I won't lie. Hearing that felt like a warm hug on a cold day. Then out of nowhere, I got a text from Vivian. It started with, "I know we've had our differences," which already had me laughing. She went on, "But Noah doesn't deserve this. You should at least help him. He's your only family." I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I locked my phone. Didn't reply, didn't even entertain it. Because here's the thing, if she'd said that before she humiliated me in front of 10 strangers, before she called me a parasite, before she blew through 65 grand of my money, maybe I would have considered it. But not anymore. And without my help, well, let's just say things unraveled fast. Vivian's credit score plummeted. Apparently, she'd been using that emergency credit card like it was her own private line of credit. And now, without me covering the balance every month, interest was eating her alive. She missed a payment on the SUV, then another. Then one afternoon, while she was at a Pilates class, her mom paid for the SUV was repossessed right there in the parking lot. She filmed it on her phone, of course, and posted it to her Instagram story like some kind of dramatic betrayal. "Can you believe this is happening?" she cried. "This is how they treat people who are down." Except, people weren't exactly sympathizing. In fact, the comments weren't on her side. And then came the next phase of desperation. Vivian launched an OnlyFans. Yup, she posted on her Facebook page, "If the world won't give me opportunities, I'll make my own. Subscribe for exclusive content. No haters allowed." But, oh, the internet did what the internet does. It didn't go viral for the content. It went viral for the captions, the attitude, the complete lack of self-awareness. People dug up her old posts, the ones where she called other women trash for selling their bodies online. Screenshots started circulating on Reddit. One thread was entitled "Karen Starts OnlyFans After Calling Herself Too Classy for Jobs." It blew up. Hundreds of comments, thousands of likes. Some people recognized her from local Facebook groups. Others chimed in with stories about knowing someone just like her. And just like that, the same ego she used to hurt everyone else became the punchline of the internet. It was brutal. It was public. And it was all her own doing. Meanwhile, I was at home sipping coffee on my porch, watching birds fly across the lake. And for the first time in years, I felt like the universe was finally balancing the scales. By the time summer hit, things had officially gone from embarrassing to catastrophic for Vivian. And Noah. He finally hit his breaking point. I found out through my mom, actually. She called me out of the blue and said Noah filed for divorce. At first, I didn't believe her. But then she added, he walked in on Vivian with one of her cousin's friends. From the cabin party? Yup. That party, the one she kicked me out of. I should have felt smug. I should have felt like shouting, told you so. But honestly, I just felt quiet. Like, this was always where it was going. It just took him longer to see it. Not long after that, Vivian lost it. She started trashing Noah online, blasting him on Facebook, tagging him in long rants, posting Instagram stories, calling him a deadbeat, a manipulator, a broke loser. She even hinted that I was the one who turned him against her. I stayed quiet. I didn't respond publicly, but I screenshotted everything. All of it. And then I made a decision. I knew Noah had just landed a new job with a government security firm. It was one of those roles where personal reputation mattered. Background checks, social media monitoring all of it. So I forwarded the screenshots to the HR contact he'd listed on his LinkedIn. No commentary, no dramatic message, just the raw proof of what was being said under his name. And a few days later, Noah called me. I hadn't heard his voice in weeks. At first I thought he was going to scream, or accuse me, or demand to know why I'd gotten involved. But he didn't. He just said, "Thank you." Turns out his boss had already seen the posts, had flagged it internally. But when he showed them the full story, the divorce papers, the screenshots, they actually supported him. The boss told him, "Good for cutting off toxic ties. We don't need that dragging you down." And just like that, things started to shift. Not overnight, not all at once. But little by little, Noah and I started talking again. Short, casual texts at first. Things like, "Hope you're doing okay," or "Did you ever finish that book you were reading?" It wasn't some magical reunion. I didn't suddenly forget everything he'd let happen. But I saw something in him I hadn't seen in a long time: shame. Not self-pity, not guilt trips, actual honest shame. And beneath that, a willingness to change. And for the first time in a long, long time, I started to believe he just might. A few weeks passed, then a few more, and slowly things started to change. Noah started going to therapy. Real therapy. Not just I talked to a friend over beers therapy, actual sessions with a licensed professional. He got his own apartment, nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom near downtown. But it was his. He paid for it himself. He bought a used car with his own savings. And then he got promoted at work. Apparently, his boss had been watching. Not just his numbers, but how he handled the storm. The public mess, the divorce, the drama. And instead of judging him, they respected the way he took responsibility. And for once, Noah seemed steady. Not dependent. Not flailing. Just steady. One Sunday morning, we met for brunch. Our first face-to-face conversation since the divorce was finalized. He looked different. Older, maybe. But more grounded. No more excuses in his eyes. We sat outside under an umbrella, coffee steaming between us. The first few minutes were awkward. We talked about the weather. Work. Nothing personal. Then he set his fork down, looked straight at me and said, "I'm sorry." I didn't say anything. I just listened. "I'm sorry for letting her treat you that way. I saw it, and I let it happen. I was weak. You were right about all of it." I waited a beat. Then I nodded and said, "I forgive you." His shoulders dropped like he'd been carrying a weight for years, and someone finally let him set it down. But I followed it with that said, "We're doing this differently from now on." He nodded. "Okay, no more money talk," I said. "No hints, no passive-aggressive texts. I help with love, not with cash. If we rebuild, it's got to be real, not transactional." His face softened. "I don't want your money," he said. "I just want my sister back." And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. A few weeks later, we all got invited to a cookout hosted by his boss, some casual company get-together with plus ones and family. Noah introduced me to a woman named Lena. She was tall, confident, and carried herself with this quiet intelligence that made everyone lean in when she spoke. Turns out she was a corporate attorney, and also a longtime friend of Noah's boss. We got to talking. First about books, then about the ridiculous things people say on airplanes, then about how neither of us knew how to grill corn properly, without it catching fire, and somewhere between the second glass of sangria and a laugh that made my stomach ache. I realized I liked her, not in some dramatic movie scene way, but in that subtle, slow burn kind of way, like something good was finally starting and I didn't have to rush it. Later that night, Noah texted me, "Just so you know, Lena asked about you. I think she likes you too." And for the first time in forever, my story didn't feel like one about loss or betrayal anymore. It felt like the beginning of something whole, something I built with boundaries, with healing, with choice. 6 months later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me said, "Pick it up." So I did, and I heard her voice. "Monica." "It's Vivian." There was a pause, like she was waiting for me to hang up. But I didn't. Not yet. "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from," she said. Her voice was shaky small. Not angry, not smug, just tired. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. "And he's gone. I don't have anything. No savings, no car. I've been living on my mom's couch for months. She's kicking me out." I didn't say a word. "I know I was horrible to you," she continued. "I said things I can't take back, but please, please, Monica, I need help. I don't have anyone else. You helped us before. I'm begging you." There was a long silence. I could feel her holding her breath. And I said, "You kicked me out of my own life, Vivian. Now you're locked out of yours." Then I hung up. No yelling, no anger, just done. That was the last time I ever heard from her. And honestly, that call didn't feel like a victory. It felt like closure. Because in the end, this wasn't about revenge. It was about remembering my worth, about drawing a line and not letting anyone drag me past it again. People say blood is thicker than water. But respect is thicker than guilt. I learned the hard way. Kindness without boundaries becomes a leash. And I don't wear leashes anymore.